Well, that's a lot to go back over. My apologies, folks. Welcome to Friday. I need a better system here. I clearly need a better system. I'm gonna move this to where I'm supposed to move it in front of me. My apologies. Um, a quick recap of what I was just saying. A 75-year-old protester last night in Buffalo, peaceful, got pushed by cops, hit his head. He's in critical care now. And I've been having a lot of conversations online in DMs and in chats and the like. And that it sounds to me like there's like this very kind of mixed set of emotions for everyone. That thankfully all of this awareness about racism in America is finally coming to the fore, and people are starting to raise their voice and talk about these issues that should have been talked about years and years and years ago. But then there's also anger that it took so long, and there's a lot of fear that this is just going to be a moment in history, and we're all going to, pledge our little donations and say our little words, and then kind of forget about it, and it's not going to change moving forward. The hope, obviously, is that that's not the case, and it's on us to make sure that this isn't, a moment in history, but an inflection point where we move forward and all get better, and that this becomes the turning point where we finally start to do what we frankly should have done centuries ago. Yeah, Oleg, that video made me sad and angry, and these were the same cops that were kneeling in solidarity with protesters just a day or two ago, and everyone was applauding the cops for embracing that there needs to be a change. And then this happens again today, and So let's not let this be a moment. Let's not let this be this one moment where we all, take notice and say this is awful and terrible and tragic. Let's let this be a point where we all, try to do better ourselves and make sure that we're all moving toward a better tomorrow, and for everybody, literally everybody, but particularly Black lives in America. Um, yeah, we have a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be a quick fix where one law or one protest or one piece of policy is going to fix it. We all have to start at home, I think, and look at ourselves, and I think make sure that this conversation is just the beginning and not the end all be all of it all. So still, I'm not going to say that it was a good week, but I hope it's been an introspective and changing week, transformative week for all of us, everywhere across the globe. Hopefully your countries aren't in as bad shape as ours, but I think that we can. It's a global community at this point, and we all need to do better. So those are my 2 cents on that for today. But that video is incredibly sad, and if anything else, it's if nothing else, it's also just highlighting that there's so much work to do. Guys, we are going to do some painting today, or some paintovers today, and I'm excited. We have two very different videos to look at, and I forgot to turn off the fan, and this guy's been working on it's noisy in here, and I apologize for that. I'll move the mic a little bit closer, hopefully not directly in front of my face, and hopefully that's not too loud. I don't know. But Oleg, Vlad, Milan, Nicholas, Daniel, we are happy to have all of you guys here today. Thank you for coming and hanging out. And let's get started. So we're first going to look at an image by Nicholas Boyson, who's in the chat. Welcome, Nicholas. Thank you for sending me an image. You guys should be able to see it now. You should still be able to hear me. Oleg, by the way, thank you for saying @Droki because of the bright orange, and I finally, realized what the hell was going on. The orange, it's like I'm like a deer. No, deers don't see orange. The opposite of a deer. Okay, back to art. It's hard. It's been a hard week to transition mentally between everything going on. Ooh. Might need to do some adjustments to the old setup here because the cables are not figured out. It's been a tough week. Okay, you can see me, I think, and I think you can see the image. Milan, yes, an otter, and we forgot to get that thing up. Me and Patrick had talked about it. He got slammed. The otter thing's coming back, as is Patrick. We just need to get to it. But thank you for remembering, Milan. Okay, so this image Nicholas sent, and I should take a quick scan at. He did send me an email, and I meant to read it before this. I obviously read it when it first came in, but I meant to read it before this. I don't even have my email open right now. Where'd you go, Mike? To make sure that I was talking about the things that he asked me to talk about, and I'm not sure that I did. So let's just pull that up real quick. I think that this is a really fun image, and the thing that I like about it for Paintover Friday, because we don't usually get to do this for Paintover Friday, I don't do any painting in this one. I basically just edit this image. Danish woods, I want to get the feeling of an early morning with some mist and orange colors. I probably should have read this before I did the Paintover, but we could have just adjusted the colors. So let's take a quick look before we watch the actual editing. So this is his final image. This was his start image. And I think that Nicholas, he did a great job of separating out the house, right? So going from here where it kind of blends in, it comes out using like some fog and some haze, really gets the silhouette of the house to stand out, which I think is great. When I was looking at this, I thought, well, it kind of feels like the house either should be in the middle or there should be something on the right that's kind of balancing the composition a little bit. And so as opposed to painting it back into the middle and trying to make that work, I thought it would be cool if we used kind of light to visually kind of hold down that right side a bit. So this is where you ended. I actually started from your raw rendering. It looks like you have like a little bit of lens distortion added or something like that, so the depth map wasn't going to line up, and I knew I was going to be using that a lot, and I wasn't going to be painting. So we went with, I started from this, and this is where we're going to end up today. So it's a little bit moodier than early morning, but I think we probably could have done this early morning now that I'm reading that, and I apologize for being less attentive than I should be. But I think we could have probably done this with, as opposed to like dark clouds and kind of what feels to me like a late in the daylight, we could have also gone blue. So let's get the screens switched around here. That's not the right one. And let's move the chat window so it's not blocking it. And then here we go. All right. So you can see just kind of flipping through things, getting some masks. A mask, basically just the depth mask, which I use heavily throughout this. We're gonna see a decent amount of like fringing on the edges of the trees, which is always gonna happen when you're leveling things really hard, like I'm gonna be doing throughout this. So please try to ignore that. Obviously, like an actual alpha selection for those would be the right way to do this if you were actually editing this image. But right now, to kind of think back to my mind state where I was when I was making these edits, is I want to get kind of the values. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what needs to be done. But I know, especially starting from his raw render, that I basically want to do, Nicholas, the things that you already did in your final render, which is separate the house out from the background a bit, darken the foreground just a little bit, and start to create some depth very quickly. And starting to adjust some of like the colors, starting to kind of bring them into something that's a little bit more harmonious from the raw render. And like, so I'm basically kind of recreating, I think, a lot of the steps that you did. Right at the beginning and figuring out what I'm going to be doing next. And it starts getting, I think, interesting here in a moment. Maybe like all I'm doing here is controlling the greens, right? We're trying to drive attention to the house, obviously not the actual landscape, and so desaturating and warming the greens a little bit kind of fits them into this like kind of foggy, hazy mood that I don't think I've really kind of fully figured out just yet, but that's kind of the fun of doing these, is you get to kind of take your thought process and really investigate it, because it's natural when you're working on your own image and less natural when you're working on somebody else's, or at least that's what I have found. We're going to see this kind of like over and over and over again, me like leveling the mask and trying to make sure that tree that comes like directly out of the house behind it that I just kind of lightened a little bit, that's one that I probably would have like shrunk down in 3D, because it's a little bit jarring. And at some point you're going to go, or maybe I actually just did it. One of the things that you see in your original image, Nicholas, is there's like a very hard line. There's a very kind of hard line between the hill and the background, the hill the house is sitting on. And you're going to see me, I think, a couple of times throughout this kind of, because of the way that the scene is set up, that line keeps coming out because I'm using a depth mask. And it's good to have that like depth there, but I don't want that to be a hard line, because I don't want that to draw a ton of attention to itself. So I want it to give the idea of depth, but not of an edge, a hard edge visually. I'm going to come back to the sky in a minute. I kind of play with a little bit here, just even though it's a super cloudy sky. Initially, my idea was, well, let's just get some texture into the sky, so that we have an excuse to darken it a little bit. And it kind of starts to work, and then I have to redo it again later. But again, obviously, like with how bright that sky is, that's pulling attention towards it and all of the edges between the trees and itself. And I want to at all times be continually moving the focus back down to the house. Another thing that we're going to see me do probably a couple of times more after this is continually darken down the foreground trees. Again, I want them to be a framing visual element. And the white on black is high contrast for these types of trees. One of the things that I think would have helped for this, because even as I sit here and paint it, it looks pretty unnatural when we're looking at it right now. This is a great place to use something, other trees, just a box with a black material on it, whatever really you want, if you block those in 3D from getting light, it'll look much more natural, because you won't have like, we're kind of fighting the fact that even though they're dark, they still have the suggestion that light's hitting on them by the way that there's a fall off of color of them. And so using an actual anything to block them and throw them into shadow in 3D will give a much more convincing result than I'm gonna achieve here at the end. But visually we get the idea of what that's trying to achieve, hopefully. Yeah, now we're running some of the standard Nick filters that I run all of the time, because I think that they look nice, and since this isn't a painting exercise, they seem appropriate. And we're gonna do more with the sky here. So this is some of that fringing, which is at this resolution and using a depth mask, pretty hard to avoid. And it creates really high contrast edges, which like it's not important. We're not actually editing a final image here, so it doesn't really matter that they're there. But when you look at them, they're like visually jarring. They visually draw a lot of attention. Excuse me. And so it's worth. And even if you're doing a final rendering, they can still show up, particularly around those edges. So having a clean alpha for them is always nice. Excuse me. And then also like just kind of constantly going in and checking to make sure that those edges don't need to be blurred or leveled a little bit, to make sure you're not getting any of those high frequency, high contrast edges. Not quite sure what else I do here. Well, we're gonna find out. It'll be a mystery. I do at some point go back and play with this Exposure X5 software that I've been playing with a bit recently, and I like I said before, I'm excited about that little plugin. It's a nice way to give everything just a little bit extra, something special. I think. Here I'm using dust and scratches to kind of. It's not a clean way to get rid of them, but it's at least something that softens it a little bit. I could have just blurred them, I think. Whether that's more distracting or less distracting, I don't know. It was worth a shot. So here we're just going through, and I'm just kind of looking at like literally their different presets, and they all kind of, there's a couple of them that I'm like, oh, that's cool, this is cool. I feel like the super heavy-handed ones are usually going to be too much, but like that one I kind of like, that gives everything like almost a purplish hue, but it wasn't the mood that I was going for this. This one I feel like kind of added quite a bit of like a little bit of contrast, a little bit more life to the greens without actually making them greener, leaving them in the warm yellowish green world. And here I'm just creating a level that'll let me, without adding too much fringing, let that tree set back just a little bit. Are we back live? I don't know. Okay, internet seems to be working on it. Let's see, we got frames coming through. And where's the YouTube studio window? I'm back, baby. Nicholas, where did... maybe I think we're back. Guys, I think we might be back. If you can see and or hear me, let me know. Let's see. I think this is working again. If it is, let me know. I'm getting a green thing here, and it says we have a good connection. I think you can see me. I don't know if it does not appear like the chat's necessarily working. Okay, back again. There we go. Milan, that was a good one. Okay. Down. Oh, yeah, we'll deal with that. I got setup things still to deal with, and I know you guys are probably thinking, Mike, I thought you said you were going to get things together this week. I thought I was going to. I really did. Okay, so as far as the time lapse go, did we get to see all of the painting that got us to where we are now as far as Nicholas's image? Let me know. And I apologize for the internet issues. Knitting, as far as Procreate, I've not had a lot of time to play with Procreate, but my wife and I are staying in a Airbnb house thing for the weekend to get out of this house for a little bit. So I won't have my computer, but I will have my iPad, and I do plan on doing some more practicing. So we'll probably see some of that next week. I think you're at the cloud placement. Okay, let's go back and look at the end, and I'll see. I can't remember what I had to say about that in the moment. But let's see where clouds come back. Something like that. Okay, so we got a couple minutes left of that. We will go back to it. Right now, we should be. Is that playing? Yes, it is. Okay. Nicholas, I will be happy to send you this PSD. As you can see on the right of the screen right now. Maybe. Oh wait, can you not see that? No, you cannot see that. Somehow this is. There we go. It's a technical difficulty kind of day. I mean, this PSD is a mess, but I'd be happy to send it to you. All I would ask is that you just reply to the email where you sent me the images saying, Mike, can you send me the PSD? Because otherwise, I guarantee you I will forget about it. I'm terrible with that kind of stuff. But I'd be more than happy to send you it. Excuse me. So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to just take that tree that's right next to the house, and we're going to push it back. And I also use some dust and scratches to kind of blur some of these hard, fringy artifacts from leveling the depth mask really, really heavily and then pushing things around it really heavily. I don't know whether this is more visually distracting than the hard edges. Generally speaking, if you create a good alpha for that when you're in 3D and rendering it at a full resolution, it's not really a problem, but it's always worth taking, zooming in and looking at them, because those hard edges, if they're sharpened, can be really unpleasing, and then if they're sharpened and then you downsize the image, they can be really bad. So this is that X5 Exposure X5 software that I'm digging. There's a lot of cool presets, and some of them are too heavy-handed, but I feel like it does a little extra something, which I like a lot. And I think, whoa, no, ain't nobody got time for that. Do not disturb. And so just trying to soften that tree just a little bit more. That tree and the tree next to it, I may have adjusted their placement just a little bit in 3D so that they're not fighting with the house quite as much. But I think overall, I feel like this goes to feeling just a little bit more balanced as to why the house isn't in the center of the image, which this composition is almost kind of asking for. I feel like there's enough light stuff happening off to the right that it feels balanced. You have the light coming in from the right, you have the house sitting off to the left, and I really like kind of where it came from. And here was again, the before, and that's where we're at. And again, like everything was just trying to set a little bit more mood, but also just to focus the house, focus the viewer's attention as much as possible on the house. So Nicholas, awesome work. Thank you for sending me an image and letting me talk about it, kind of without a chance to say anything back. I think you did great work. I hope that there was something valuable in this. And yes, you send me an email, I will send you back the PSD happily. But thank you. And okay, so now we are on to Oleg's image. Oleg sent me an image yesterday because he knew I only had one to do today. And let's organize myself. We might do a little bit more painting on this afterwards. This is where I ended up. This is where we started from. I love the colors in this image, Oleg. I really, really dig the kind of, it's a desaturated but like warm palette, and it has some nice blues in it. I really like, there's an overall feel to this that I really like. The thing that I do, which we've already seen, I kind of changed the composition. We'll watch how I change it. I shortened this one up quite a bit because I think we might want to do just a little bit more painting. So I'm not sure that this is the right solution. But the thing, there were a couple of things that kind of stood out to me initially, and I think that there's a couple of ways to fix it. Fix it, change it. Fix it assumes that it's not the right answer, and that's not what I'm trying to say. But we have kind of like right here, this line, we have a tangency between this line up here and then the edge of the snow globe-y kind of capsule. So at very least, I think you want to either move it, a little bit this way so that line comes out here, or a little bit the other way, so that line comes over here and there's like a meaningful amount of space between them. And then with the way that the composition is set up right now, we have this kind of obviously hard line right in the middle of the image. Cutting an image in half is always tough. Now, it's not always wrong, but it's always tough. And I think that if I was to do it, I'm not sure what the answer is. This is a tough one because I never make images like this. I keep looking at the chat as opposed to the camera. Let's watch my painting, and then we might look at a few more things. I did try to keep the colors the way that they've been, because I really like them. I think that they came out great, and I think that trying to make this a little, you can see that I've not thought about this enough by my difficulty in talking about it. But I think that one of the issues for me looking at it currently is that I'm not sure what's more important. Is it the thing? This is from Fabio's competition. Oleg, I don't think you submitted that. I thought you should have. I think this is beautiful. But I'm not sure what's more important. Is it the hand with the snow globe miniature, or is it the floating city thingy over on the left? I'm not sure which one's more important, and I think when you have that, I think that an image you should be able to read as a viewer what's most important in an image, even if there's multiple things to be read overall. So let's pull up the painting process. And why do I need to do this every time? Who knows? Okay. Let us see here. Is this on? Yeah, there we go. So I evened out the horizon, was kind of like the first thing, and made a rough selection so I could start moving things around without having to paint everything. I also think there was an option I felt like that I was thinking of, like what am I going to try and accomplish here? And one of them was just to leave almost everything where it is and just keep painting on it. I love that you've gone through and started to paint this guy. I think if you spent a little bit longer so that the whole thing felt like a painting, not like where there's some brushstrokes over rendering here and there, just by like not even changing anything but continuing to paint more on that, you would get something, you would get a result that felt more cohesive. And yeah, like it's very abstract, and I don't do a lot of abstract work, which makes me maybe not the best person to be doing a paint over of this image. But that's a good challenge, right? If nothing else, to realize that there's a skill and skill and awareness to how you compose something this abstract. That's different from a standard rendering or a standard photorealistic or approaching photorealistic image, or even painting, right? It's the same principles that are the challenge. And you can see I'm still kind of going very much, even though I'm still trying to keep the colors and like the surreal nature of this alive, like painting over everything with color and letting it all push back into the background is still a photorealistic technique to add depth. And I'm not sure that that's the best solution or not. We're gonna see me kind of play a decent amount here and there with the skin color. I've never painted skin before. I've never really rendered it in like a close-up fashion either, and I don't know what it looks like. I would have to look at some reference and do a decent amount of practice. But again, obviously moving the composition to not one that's cut in half, but trying to keep the story the same. This painting is definitely taking the approach of the hand and the miniature is the focus, and then everything else is supplemental or informing that. And I'm not convinced that that's the right decision, but I think it at least creates a composition that has less ambivalence as far as like what the viewer is supposed to be looking at. It's saying this is the focus, this is telling us more about the snow globe miniature. I don't know if I want to say that this is better or if this is the right decision on this one. But it's a decision. And then I think what we might do when this is over is maybe quickly paint an alternative just to see what it looks like and do it quickly. And it's probably what I should have done at the beginning. At the beginning, you saw me like create a selection for the hand and start moving things cleanly. And that was probably a mistake on my end. What I should have done is done it roughly, because then you kind of commit, right? Like I took time to make a selection and to do this cleanly. I should have maybe, instead of doing that, I should have done a couple of rough studies of like, is A or B or C a better option? And then gone and tried to work on it. Yeah, that would have definitely been a better solution, I think. Because yeah, I don't know what the answer is for this one. But I love the color palette. I love that it's surreal. Kind of makes me want to do some surreal stuff. Surreal kind of like in the bigger traditional sense of surrealism, not like, sculpting an ugly character and putting a rock texture on him, which is surreal, but not like surrealist. Yeah, Oleg, it's definitely got some like Dali and Magritte vibes, which I really dig. And there's a certain amount of me when I was first looking, I'm like, what are we saying here? Is he about to put this thing into the window? Did it come from the window? Is that a window, or is that a case for the thing? What is the thing? I mean, literally, this competition was called The Thing. There's a part of me that's like, oh, we should get a clearer story. I don't understand what I'm looking at, and I actually don't think that that's the case. I like that I don't know what I'm looking at. I like that I don't understand the image. Excuse me. If it was like if it was just like the idea of like we all live in miniatures or like some like very clear, like it's a full city, but it's, you know, in the size of a snow globe, and then this is inside of another snow globe. There's nothing wrong with that, but somehow that's like less interesting to me than this. Like, why is there a wall here with a window? What do we need a wall for? In your image, I know that there's like hard terrain on the right and water on the left. But like the weirder the better, I think, kind of in this one. So that's about at the end. Let's maybe do a quick study. Come on, there we go. Let's maybe do a quick study. Are we back on the screen? Yes, we are. So that's where I ended. You can see it obviously takes like a clear stance on what's the important thing, but I didn't do any investigation. I still like, I think we saw in the video, or maybe it happened after the video, like I kept kind of flipping back and forth. I'm like, did I improve it? And I'm not sure whether or not I did. So let's just take this and let's look at a couple things that like just down and dirty quickly. Oops. All right, we can just kind of quickly take this. We're going to let Photoshop quickly clean this thing up. And remove that. Content aware, normal. Good enough. And then, now we can kind of move this guy and just very quickly start to paint back the edge of this wall. Paint out this edge that just kind of makes some amount of sense here again. Maybe move it even further. So that would be like one option. Oopsie daisies. And like at least we get that clear edge, which I like, as opposed to this coincident edge right here. And that's Killian. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. You want to say hi to everybody? Let's say hi to Pupsters. You want to come up? Come here, buddy. Come say hello to everybody. Everyone could use a happy dog right now. Come on, up, up, up. Oh, this is Killian, folks. You guys have met him before. Cute dogs are always fun. Little mascot. He even tolerates me making him sit like this, kinda. What do you think about what's going on? Do you think this is better? No. Yeah, he's no answers from him. 0 answers. Doesn't mean he's not helpful though. Okay, buddy. Good boy. No barking. Yeah, he's a little cutie, Oleg. He's a little cutie, and he knows it. That's the problem. He knows it. Okay. So that would be one option. Let's continue with the options. Another option would be, we could take something like this. All right, so like we could get rid of the window altogether. I don't know that that's the right solution, but let's take a quick look-sees of what that looks like. And of course we can go through and let's just paint the whole thing out. And then we can give just a little, oops. Give a little bit of a highlight on each side of this thing. Maybe not that heavy. I mean, that almost goes a little bit like more surreal to me because you can't see the wall at all anymore. It kind of makes me want to... Oopsie daisy. Kind of like that one too. I keep, yeah. The new system, I'm not sure if it was better than the last. And like this little process that I'm doing right now, like this is something you, well, I'm not sure if the hand was in 3D or not. If the hand was comped in afterwards, then you can kind of only obviously do this in post. But whether it's in 3D or in you know, just like a quick little sketch, like these kind of like very quick like studies are I feel like really good ways to figure out what is working and what's not working. Now another option. And the idea is not like, the nice thing about like this process is the goal in this is not to make anything beautiful. The goal is solely, let's figure out a way to go. And once you've done like one of them, you kind of stop worrying the fact that they're messy, right? Like, and you just start kind of thinking, okay, what happens if we made this entirely, we kept the division in half, and it's like that traditional idea of like, you know, okay, let's have a spitball session, you know, no bad ideas, let's just, you know, try to generate some thoughts about what we can do. I feel like the first one's always the hardest because like you're like, no, I need to think of the right thing to do. I need to think of what the answer is here. But once you do one, you're like, oh, that gives me some other ideas, and like each time you do one, you get like a different idea, which, you know, for better or for worse, is just getting us through. So like, if the hand was in 3D, you could do basically what I'm doing right now, like in 3D, save a copy of your scene, do whatever you got to do so you can get back, maybe, or, you know, burn your bridges. You know how I feel about burning your boats and the like. But just like, okay, what if I did X? Quickly do it. Maybe if I did Y instead. Maybe if I took, you know, X and Y, and then that kind of gives me a different idea. So then, like, with this one, I feel like we want that to be smaller now. And that would kind of come something like this. Something like that. Not worrying too much about the specifics. Let's just kind of paint in a little bit of sky into this, so we can see through that window. See, that one, like, very quickly takes me, like, as soon as I made this one, that's kind of what would take me, I think, back. Like, this immediately takes me back to thinking, okay, so then now this doesn't feel as balanced. So we'd want to go like something more like this, which is kind of where I ended up going before. I don't know what all that background noise is, folks. I apologize. We got some fans back on because it's freaking hot in here. What do we got? 86 degrees Fahrenheit, obviously, because I don't understand metric. Which I think is like in like the 30-degree range. right? We don't have to worry about this being done well. And that's pretty close to kind of where we ended up before, which I don't like as much. I don't think. Yeah, that one I'm gonna say no to. That one I like. That one I like too. Right? And these are all, like, all of these options are, like, pretty close to, that one's a pretty big departure from your original one. This one, just moving it out a little bit, I think gives it a little bit of room, which I think is okay. This one might be my favorite, my personal favorite. Obviously, this is entirely subjective. Just lining up the horizons. I feel like this one feels less like a surreal piece and more like a diptych, right? Like, it doesn't feel like these are in the same image anymore. It feels like they're being divided. And what we're looking at the left is like a close-up inside of the sphere on the right, which from a story standpoint, I don't think I like as much as the kind of Dali surreal altogether image. I don't think it's as cool of an idea. I think visually I like the way that it looks. It feels balanced, which I like a lot. But it's sending me back to like that thing that we were talking about before, which is that like our tendencies is to stay safe, and I feel like this is a safer option. I feel like if I was doing this and I opted for this instead of something else, I'll be saying, well, I know how to make this work, and it's not as cool of a story, it's easier to understand, and it's easier to execute. So maybe I like this one, but I think I like it for the wrong reasons. Meh. I think this one is kind of like a play on this one, and something about this wall just like starting and stopping feels to add to the weirdness of it, which I think I like this better. Anyways, I don't have a right answer for you, Oleg, but the main thing from like an overall standpoint is really just this tangent is the only thing that I really can say constructively that either move this a little bit this way or this a little bit this way or anything, so that these lines are not coincident. And otherwise, I really like it. And then if you're going to do the painting, just continue painting, so that it feels less like you're just. What I have found that works for me is that the stage that this is at so far, we have a bit of painting in there, which I really like. We don't have enough that it feels like the whole thing was painted, and that's always like a weird area for me. So just going through and continuing to make marks over everything, even if you're not changing everything, will bring the overall kind of texture and feel to the image together. Yeah, I think that's all I got for this one. I love the colors though, and I love the weird, crazy, cool idea. Or almost, there's almost to some degree like the idea is a little bit of a lack of an idea, which sounded worse coming out of my mouth than coming forward. It's not like this cute little, it's not this, right? This is a cute little idea. We have this thing on the left, and then we have it in the house on the right, and it's like packaged with a bow on it, and it's clean and easy. I like how ambiguous this is, so I applaud you for it. Okay, I think that's where we're at for today. Oleg, I'm glad you appreciate them. I appreciate you sending it in, and letting me show it and talk about it, and awesome work. if you're making, and guys, I meant to mention this at the beginning of the video, and even when I can't even say that I said it when the microphone was not working and I wasn't aware of that fact. But I know that it's been a really hard week, and I think that that's okay. A week like this should be hard. I know that I've also, like, when I'm thinking about stuff to do on this channel, or just I want to make something and I don't know what to make because it all seems insignificant. I think that that's probably natural too, and I shouldn't beat myself up for it. But I do think Fabio right now is running a competition. I meant to put it as a link inside of the video description. I didn't know that I did not. So I will put it in the chat now, and I will add it later. The current competition that they're running is a 2-week competition. If you guys haven't checked it out, you should. And it's Together We Stand, and it's about trying to figure out a way to kind of express what's going on in the world meaningfully with the skills that we have at our disposal. And I would love to see what you guys come up with for it. But yeah, I hope that we're all learning from this and getting better. Everything going on in the world right now, or that we're learning from this and we are going to be better. The types of changes that we're talking about, they're not going to happen, in a day or a week or a month, or probably even a singular year, even. So I hope that we continue the fight for as long as it takes to be better individually, to be better as a society. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I hope that everyone stays safe and stays well. And we will be back on Monday with something or another. I do not know yet what. But as always, thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, be well, guys. Love you all. And awkward time. We are out. Oh, this is going to be really awkward because the screens are all over the place. Well, I don't even know where the YouTube window is that I'm looking for. Yeah, this is super awkward. Cheers, guys. Oh, here we go. Oh, last thing. If anyone would like me to do a paint over one of their works, Mike at Droki.com, or DM me anywhere, and we'll figure it out from there. I'd be happy to do it, and I would thank you for submitting. All right, guys. Talk to you all soon. Beep. Boop.